Hello ratbags, it's Jade. Welcome to another DayZ video. Today is a little tutorial on the best melee weapons in DayZ. You guys have been blowing it up with the views on the PS4 Let's Play, but today I am going to be using the PC offline mode, which you can only get on PC through some complicated steps. There is going to be an offline mode added to the game eventually, at least I hope there is. That's what the devs rumoured in the past. They did show off at one point Xbox offline play. But for now, the only way to play offline is by downloading certain things on PC. But it does give me the opportunity to show you some cool stuff. And this is all relevant for PS4 and Xbox. I've double and triple checked that these items actually spawn on the map. So what are the best melee weapons in terms of weight, in terms of how much damage they're going to do, or what slots they've got? I'm going to go through all the ones currently available. So you can see I'm using this spawning in item. Let's spawn them all in. We've got some brass knuckles. Let's go for the gold shiny ones. Right, so straight up, let's have the long wooden stick. You get this by chopping down basically a bush. And let's have a skinny old man here. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Now, it can be a bit imprecise, don't worry, we're not going to just measure it by exactly how many hits I do, because depending on where you're aiming, you are going to do more damage if you're aiming explicitly on the head. But what I can say is a long wooden stick is going to do around 10 health damage, 15 shock, and it's got about a range of, call it 1.2. Now let's have a dedicated spear. To make a spear, you're going to need some bones and a long wooden stick. And here we go, we've got our new victim crash test zombie. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. It only took 5 hits. You could hear it, the sounds of it. The spear does 25 health damage. It also does 15 shocks, pretty much the same as a stick, but it does do 100 blood damage. It has got a 35% chance to cause bleeding effects as well. Just a little quick FYI, I'm going to be doing this in much broader tutorial showing exactly every indicator, exactly every state. But bleed is signified by that blood drop on the screen in the bottom right. And what blood is your overall total blood loss. So you've got around 5,000 blood loss, I do believe. If it dips below sort of minus 2,000 or 2,500, I should say, then you would then fall unconscious. And if you don't get revived, or you don't manage to wake up, or if you're in a situation where you're going to carry on losing blood level, you can die. So it's not just your health that you will die from, it's also if you lose too much blood. So basically, whenever you see your health sign or the blood droplet sign going down, you need to make sure it stays up. Your blood levels also take a while to regain, so it is going to take even longer. You need to be well fed and well hydrated. That's why you should always drink and eat a little bit more than what it says. Don't ever just eat just to get you out of the yellow. Keep eating until it's going triple arrows up. This really can help, particularly after you've just been injured. It might be worth just sitting there and eating lots and lots of food and drinking lots of liquids. So when I say a weapon is doing 100 blood damage, that means it's going to basically whittle away someone. So if someone is already injured maybe, and they're only down to like their last 3,000 blood, you could make them unconscious with just another 5 hits or so. Like I said, I will be covering this in a much more detailed video, talking about hunger, food, and pretty much all the conditions and illnesses that you can get in DayZ as well. Just an FYI, we are going through all the weapons that you can actually have in your equipment slot first. Then I'll take a look at smaller ones like knives and the brass knuckles. Okay, next up we've got a crowbar. 4. Oh, there we go. So about the same amount of hits that it sounded like. I definitely feel like I got at least 4 or 5 hits there. Crowbar does 15 health damage, 12 shock damage. So it's only marginally better than a long stick. It will cause more health damage, but it's not going to cause as much shock damage. There is 0 bleed chance with this as well, and it does take up 6 slots. Let's put it inside. Let's take a look at a regular pipe. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So there was about 7 hits there, but it was going down. Remember, this is all just based more or less about headshots. You're going to do 20 health damage with this and 20 shock damage, but again, no bleed chance. It has got a little bit more range though. Now don't worry, I'm not going to show you me attacking zombies with every single weapon. You guys kind of get the idea. But I am going to place them and list them off where I think they belong. But a shovel does do 15 health damage. It also does 15 shock damage. So it's not that far behind a pipe. However, a shovel does take up 16 slots. There are some other benefits as well, which I'm going to go through at the end. I'll also talk about which ones of these are repairable. Now the pickaxe is actually one of the more surprising weapons. It's one of also the heaviest. But it does 25 health damage, 100 blood damage and 20 shock. It's also got a pretty good range and it's got a 35% bleed damage. It is one of the biggest slots though, it does take up a lot. It doesn't weigh as much as some of these other weapons. The sledgehammer does around 25 health damage, 20 shock but no bleed. Now it's time for the axes. Which one is going to be top dog out of these two? You've got the splitter axe and you've got the firefighter axe. Whoa! That was pretty big. Maybe it's because this guy just is a bit weak from climbing all them poles. But the fire splitter axe does 20 health damage, 100 blood damage, 15 shock. It's got a decent range too. Now, interestingly, you may have thought the firefighter axe is going to be better because it just looks a little bit more, you know, newer, more modern, I guess. But no, it doesn't do any blood damage. The firefighter axe is actually worse compared to just a normal splitter axe. The firefighter axe only does 20 health damage, 15 shock, 0 blood damage, and 0 chance of doing bleed. Whereas the fire splitter axe does a 30% chance of bleed. And it does do that blood damage, as I said. So that is all the melee weapons that fit into your melee slot. All these weapons can go in that slot there. But which one is the best? Well, if you just judge it purely on how much health damage it does, the worst thing you can use is a long wooden stick. And the best thing you can use is the pickaxe. The pickaxe, the spear, the sledgehammer, all three of these offer 25 health damage. The pickaxe does take up the most amount of slots, as you can see, but it also does have more uses than something just like the spear. The spear can be made really easily. You only need some bones and a stick. So for that reason, and because it's so light, I'm actually going to go with a spear. If you just want something to protect yourself, you're not interested in digging anything, and you've got a small melee weapon to open tin cans with, the spear is one of the better weapons. It doesn't do as much shot damage, but it does just as much bleed damage as the splitter axe. The pickaxe is going to be better in the long term though if you do want to get more stone, but you can also mine stone, just FYI, with a sledgehammer too. The only thing a spear can't do is destroy fortifications, so if someone has locked a door or you're trying to get in someone's base, it won't help you there. That's why a pickaxe is the all-round good one, and one of the ones that takes up most of the slots. But the fact it can do so much, dig up ground, you can even use the pickaxe to grow crops. You don't have to just use the shovel. So there we go, that's my opinion. If weight isn't an issue, go for the pickaxe. If you're really not that fussed about growing your own crops, then the splitter axe is going to be the best melee weapon after the stone spear. The fire is almost the same as the splitter axe, but it doesn't do any bleed damage, and it does take up 2 more extra slots. The shovel is good, and you do need the shovel if you want to stash items. But it is incredibly heavy, it does take up a lot of slots too. Whereas the pickaxe, as you can see, only is 1 kg. The shovel is 6 kilograms. If you've got the option, I would definitely avoid things like sledgehammer and the pipe. Also the crowbar, it's definitely better to have an axe or just a simple pristine spear. All three of these things, the crowbar, the pipe and the sledgehammer, weigh a ton as well. Weapons equipped in your melee slot, go for a spear until you can either get hold of a splitter axe or a pickaxe. Pickaxe does do the most damage, it does do bleed damage the most, it does a lot of shot damage, and you can use it to do other things like get rocks, build bases and even open tins of food. The only thing it can't do is stash items. That's the only reason you should be looking for a shovel, is if you want to stash any of your items. So the first chance you get, make a spear when you spawn on a fresh server. It's going to do you so much better than having any of these other weapons for melee. Right, time to look at the small stuff. Now this stuff can carry in your inventory, so space is important and how heavy it is. So pretty much the worst one, I'm not going to go through them all attacking zombies, is the stone knife. It only does 5 health damage, 5 shot damage, it's only got range of 1.1 and absolutely no bleed damage. It's better than nothing, but only just about. In fact, you're better off using a long stick to attack someone rather than a stone knife. Of course, it is beneficial using this because you can cut bushes down, and so you will be able to get long sticks, you can get bark, and you will be able to use it to skin animals. But if you're going out there and you just need something to hand to take on players, a screwdriver is actually going to be better than the stone knife. It has 10 health damage, 10 shock, it's got the same range, but you can't do any of the other stuff like skinning animals or taking bark from trees. After that, you've got brass knuckles. Now these are pretty cool. You can see I'm doing fair amount of damage and I'm doing it pretty quickly too. They do about 15 health damage, 15 shot damage, but that's their own real use. But they are pretty light, so definitely if you get hold of them, it's definitely worth keeping a set if you can. But they are quite rare. Now let's take a look at a machete. Oh, if I can hit it. 1, 2, 3, 4. So it doesn't maybe hit as quickly or as detailed. The knuckle dusters have definitely got a little bit more focus. The machete is pretty heavy as well at 1 kg, but it does do 15 health damage, 15 shock, 35% bleed chance and 100 blood damage. You can obviously cut rags, you can open cans, you can make sticks, bark, and you can skin animals with it. But pretty much no matter what knife it is, they're all going to be better than a machete. Even just a little steak knife or a kitchen knife. Got my little steak knife here. And you see it didn't take too long to take him down. It weighs absolutely nothing and it does 15 health damage, 100 blood damage, 12 shock, 35% bleed chance, and it's got a range of 1.1. You can also repair these with sharpening stones and duct tape. And if you wanted to, you can also have a shave. I'm guessing you need another player for that. It can do all the things a normal knife can do. You can go ahead and get bark from a tree. You can skin animals. It's definitely worth keeping hold of at least one knife, especially instead of a machete. In fact, really, a kitchen knife is going to be worse. A steak knife is better because it weighs less. If you find a kitchen knife, I would still stick with a steak knife. It does almost exactly the same damage stats, but it is a little bit lighter holding a steak knife. For that same reason, I wouldn't bother with a hunting knife either. A steak knife is always going to beat all of these. It does exactly the same amount of damage, but again, the steak knife is lighter. Again, the only alternative is if you've got combat boots or assault boots, you should be able to slip a combat knife into them. So again, it's another slot that you don't have to carry items. So that would be the only time I would swap my steak knife for any other type of knife, is if I've got the combat or assault boots. Now you have got things like a tire iron and a wrench, as well as the hammer. In fact, the tire iron, the wrench and the hatchet all do 20 health damage. So either one of these is going to give you the maximum amount of health damage. But it's only the hatchet that does additional blood damage with a 30% chance for bleed. The only problem with the hatchet, of course, is it's quite heavy. Not as heavy as the tire iron. And if you happen to have the choice between a wrench and a tire iron, go for the wrench as it's going to be lighter. Again, the only problem with wrench and tire irons are you can only use them to open food and attack other players. Of course, you are going to also need it if you are doing certain things with cars. So what is the best small hand melee weapon? I honestly think you should go for the steak knife, or any of the knives really. Chances are if you've got a melee equipped slot, hopefully you've got a spear in there, or you've got something like a shovel or a pickaxe. And so you want to combat that with something light and small. While the hatchet can be used to chop trees and it can also be used to open tins of food, it is pretty much the all-rounder. If you really can't carry any more gear and you don't want to carry something that like a sledgehammer or a pickaxe, then the hatchet is probably the best all-rounder to have. It does take up a lot more slots and is a little bit heavier than lots of these smaller melee weapons. But if you are using this instead of carrying a big long weapon, that is going to help you massively because it can cut trees down. But if you are carrying a splitter axe, I would go for the steak knife. It's small, it's light, it doesn't do as much health damage, but it still does a huge amount of bleed damage. Chances of finding a knife are definitely going to be greater than finding any of these weapons too. And if you're looking for a build that doesn't carry lots of weapons, you want to be nice and light, then the hatchet's a good alternative instead of carrying any sort of axe, pickaxe or shovel. So, if you've got a screaming horde of zombies like I have chasing you, just make sure you've got your kitchen knife. You'll be fine, honestly. I have Jade, this has been a Daisy little guide to melee weapons. Let me know if you feel I've got something wrong. Let me know what you think's good, what's bad. Until next time, rat bags, I will see you later.